Well, it's just after 8:30. It is Sunday morning. I am Ron. So this must be Sunday morning live with Ron. Good morning. I got to tell you, first off, welcome, whether you're here live or you're here on the replay, welcome. But I got to tell you, that opening shot, right up until the point that I went live, the incense was in there, it was burning, and it had smoke coming out of his ears, and I went live and I looked back at the feed and it's like no smoke. Like sometimes your best laid plans, you just can't win. Remember that, okay? Get the best shot you can get, but sometimes you're not going to get that perfect thing that you had planned in your head. Life always wins. All right. This is Sunday Morning Live with Ron. I am Ron of ronalcottphotography.com. Okay. And we have a lot to cover. So let me tell you a little bit about what happens on Sunday Morning Live with Ron as I get in here to monitor my Instagram account. Of course, right now it's only me, but it's always good to monitor. Welcome. Sunday Morning Live with Ron. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the last set of pictures that I put up on my site. These are not new ones that are coming, but it was such a big set that I've only done posts on less than half of them. So I'm going to show you that whole set. So we got a lot of those to cover, so that's why I'm jumping right in. Usually I babble a bit more and act funny and be weird, but right now we're going to jump right into seeing those. And then after we get done with those, we're going to give you a lesson on how to improve your photography. Right now we're working on post-processing. If you go to my YouTube channel, if you go to YouTube, you search for Ron Olcott Photography, okay, you will find my YouTube channel, and I have lessons in there about composition, about taking sharper pictures, getting a good sharp picture, and about the exposure triangle, okay? Your shutter speed, the size of the opening called aperture, and the sensitivity of your sensor, which is called the ISO, okay? So there are lessons on all of each of those things. Also, we've done some other post-processing lessons. One on the basics of adjusting the light, another one on the basics, I think I did two on adjusting light, and then another one on the basics of adjusting color, okay? And today we're going to talk about what in Lightroom they call effects, okay? I tend to call it the texture, even though texture is the name of just one of the three controls we're going to look at. And then once we've done this from a lesson, then we're going to go actually into Lightroom and take some pictures that I took last weekend in Santa Cruz and show you how those controls would affect those pictures on real, actual, unfinished pictures. So without further ado, as I said, we've got a lot of pictures to go through, images that have been added to the gallery, so I'm going to jump right into that. Once again, welcome. I got a like. I didn't see that person even come in and leave, but I got a like on Facebook already. Thank you, thank you. And we're going to jump right in and go to the new images. All right. So, nope, not that list. I've got so many things stacked up here on this desk. It's just an ugly, ugly mess. So, this one here is called River Sunset. Okay, this is the Coquille River. Okay. This is the waterfront in Bandon, Oregon. This is the Coquille Lighthouse. It's a different town name, but it's also in Oregon. Okay, so these are just two sides of the river, and the cloud bank out here is actually the ocean. Okay, so this is right at the mouth of the Coquille River. Sunset. Okay, I actually managed to catch some of the many birds that were flying around. So again, this one is called River Sunset. Oops, I went to the wrong place. You didn't see that one. Wait, let's go back. There, just so you can see now that I've got the right image up. River Sunset. Okay, this one is called Wet Parking Lot. And pretty much, if you turned around from that last shot, this is what I saw behind me. This is the marina, also in Bandon, Oregon. Everything that we're looking at today is from my trip that I took. I took a week off of work and actually went up to Bandon, Oregon. Do not worry, none of these are of the famous rocks along the Oregon coast, but I do have some of the rocks along the Oregon coast. This is just what I took the first day that I was there. So that's the first batch that I'm releasing from Bandon. Again, this one is called Wet Parking Lot. I really like marinas. I like all the repeating patterns and the leading lines created by the pilings. I like the leading line caused by this ramp coming down here. And then I just like all the different colors and textures of the spires. And it's a very busy photo, and usually busy photos don't work well. But there's something about marinas. Maybe it's because I want to sail away. When I grow up, I want to sail away and be a pirate. Welcome, whoever joined me on Facebook. Oh, no, see, as soon as you say welcome, you scare them right away. Okay. Wet parking lot. This one is called I Dare You to Take My Rock. Okay. Along the waterfront, again, same shoot. The first evening I was there. Along the waterfront in Bandon, okay, they have a lot of sculptures. Not all of them are wood, but many of them are wood sculptures. Okay, of course, being a forestry area, they like their wood, which is good because I like wood too. They evidently have a lot of sea lions. I didn't see any on this particular trip, but I may have been there at the wrong time. So a few of them are of sea lions. This guy looks like a fairly young guy. Okay, he's got himself a rock, and he's looking like he's kind of just daring anybody to try to take his rock away from him. Again, a different take from a different place along the waterfront of the Coquille Lighthouse and the river, the fog bank that is the ocean, and then some nice weeds. Okay. I like the leading line of this broken off branch, sort of taking you up and back to the lighthouse there. I think the weeds do a nice job of framing the lighthouse. Okay. These are all things that we've talked about in earlier lessons. So I'm just trying to point out some of the composition things that I took with it. It's got a huge depth of field. See how everything is in focus from the grass here in the foreground that was about 4 feet away from me, all the way to the lighthouse that was all the way across the river, and the fog bank that was way off in the distance. It's all in focus, so big depth of field. So again, this one is called Where the River Meets the Sea. Okay. This one is called High Ducky. I am trying to learn how to do wildlife photography. Welcome to whoever joined me on Facebook. This is Sunday Morning Live with Ron, and I'm Ron, and this is Ron from Ron Alcott Photography. We'll take that off so you can see the pictures better. We'll take that off so you can see the pictures better. Do say hi so I know who's joined. This one is High Ducky. Don't worry, you may have missed a couple, but we're going to run back through all of them again when we're done. This one is called High Ducky. I believe this is a mallard, although I always thought mallards had bands on their neck, but when I brought it up on my Identify This Animal app, it assured me this was a mallard. It's like, okay. Not what I would have called a mallard. So it may not be a mallard duck. It may just be a mallard bird. Okay. Because it said it was in the goose family. I don't know. It's just a bird. I'm trying to learn how to take pictures of wildlife. Unfortunately, wildlife seldom sits still. It's really nice at sunset. They sit very still and they float on the water and they look very pretty for you. So you get a chance to catch them. So I caught a bird. High Ducky. Those of you who are NCIS fans, yes, that's where I got that. This one's called Don't Get Your Toes Wet. Oh, wait, let me back up and go to him. Let me go back up, talk about him. This one's called Don't Get Your Toes Wet. This is a different crop of the wet parking lot that we saw earlier. So this is the exact same image. I made a copy of it. I cropped it differently. Okay. And now it has a very different story to it. Rather than the busyness of the whole marina, okay, now we concentrate on, I thought it was very, very fascinating just seeing this repeating pattern of all the outboard motors all at the exact same angle. Okay, this one's a little bit too heavy for the boat. See how he's dipping in the water? That's a little bit of marine trivia for you. You don't want to get your toes wet. All right. Oh, they disappeared. I scare people off. I don't know why. It's just me. I'm so likable. I really, really am. Don't get your toes wet. From the marina in Bandon, Oregon. Okay. This one is called, simply enough, Barbara Cay. Okay. This was by far the largest boat in this marina. It was on an end slip because it was longer than any of the regular slips in there. I expect that she is actually a tourist boat for fishing or crabbing of some sort. There are pulleys up here, so I assume that something goes in the water and then you can pull it back to the boat. But the reason that I think it's for tourists is that real fishermen would not have this much railing in the way to get the fish back in the boat. Okay, so that's what makes me think that they've got extra high railings so that the tourists don't fall in the water when they get excited about seeing fish. Barbara Cay from Bandon, Oregon. Wow, we're up to 3. Hi, Cheryl. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. You told me you were coming back, and you did. So this one's the Barbara Cay. I won't forget where this is from because it's got where right there on the transom on the back. Okay. A different crop, same image that we already saw where the river meets the sea. This one I call I Saw the Light and then House in parentheses, sort of a joke on I Saw the Light. The texture and everything of the weeds in the front here, and the fact that I was able to get such a good depth of field, I think it really works well as a black and white. Okay, so we didn't talk about black and white when we were talking about color. Maybe I'll do a whole module on that. But a lot of times when you see things that already have a lot of contrast in them, you might want to try flipping them over to black and white and see what they look like. This one, I thought, looked pretty interesting. That is called I Saw the Light House. Okay. Obviously from the same spot, a different focus, different zoom. Now we're much closer and zoomed on our log here. And rather than the lighthouse being the subject of the photo, I changed my depth of field. If you remember, how do I do that? I decreased the number of my aperture setting. So I probably went from like an f11, f12 down to f5.6 probably is. That's the, once I get any kind of zoom on this lens, 5.6 is the biggest I can open it. But by changing that aperture, now I have a whole different depth of field. The only thing that's in focus are these weeds now in front. So because they're the focus, they now become the story, and the lighthouse just becomes a background element. Okay? So changing your depth of field, you can change the story that you're telling as you go through with your photography. All right. Once again, that one's called Summer Remembrance. Now, this is the first of a series. All right. So bear with me. This whole series, there are 4 of them. They are all called I Am Weeds, and then they have a qualifier. Okay. Why I Am Weeds? Well, first off, obviously, they are weeds. Second off, a previous edit of this particular picture was less warm and more just yellow. So what popped in my mind was I Am Curious yellow. So I Am Weeds yellow. But then I changed the way that it was developed. So, and then the third reason why they are called I Am Weeds is I had just rewatched Guardians of the Galaxy. And of course, fell in love with Groot all over again. So, this one is called I Am Weeds Warm. Okay. The next one is I Am Weeds Black and White. This one is I Am Weeds on Shrooms. And then the last one is I Am Weeds Cool. Okay. Oh, no, I hit the wrong button. Okay. Shroom went by kind of fast. So this is kind of taking that. These are all pictures, obviously, the copies, obviously, the same image, just developed differently. Okay. This one I went kind of crazy with some of the controls that we're going to be looking at today. And then I pushed the color in opposite directions. So I went warm and then I said, but make it green. Okay. So it gives a very surrealistic effect. Okay. And then the final one in that set is I Am Weeds Cool. Just like the first one was a warm treatment of the colors, here we've gone to more blues and greens. Okay. It's a much cooler picture, just temperature wise. Okay. So there they are. Once again, we'll run right back through them. River Sunset. Okay. Wet Parking Lot. I Dare You to Take My Rock. Where the River Meets the Sea. Hi Ducky. Don't Get Your Toes Wet. Barbara Kay. I Saw the Lighthouse. Summer Remembrance. And then I Am Weeds Warm. I Am Weeds Black and White. I Am Weeds on Shrooms. And I Am Weeds Cool. Okay. So those pictures are all already available. Usually when I talk to you on a Sunday, I tell you they're going up on, those are already available in my new images gallery. Okay. You can look at them there. They will show up right there at the front of the new images gallery because it's a new images gallery. So the newest things I put at the front. Makes sense, huh? Sometimes, amazingly enough, I can make sense. I don't let people know that I can do this because then they expect me to do it all the time, and that just is not in my makeup. Okay, so go to the website. There's the website again. Ron Alcott Photography. There we go. So go to ronalcottphotography.com and go to the new images gallery, and you will see them there. So I promised you the pictures. We've done one of the three things that I've promised. Okay. And amazingly, I've done that in about the same amount of time that I usually do. I'm only about 7 minutes behind my usual schedule. So, but there are things that I need to let you know about. First off, we are now at the 27th of September. The September drawing for Divider Detail 1 ends on September 30th. If you're in the email list, then you are already entered. If you have not entered yet, you need to go to the website, ronalcottphotography.com. Okay. And at the very top, you'll see a red bar. It will pop down after about 3 seconds. And on there is a link to enter the giveaway for Divider Detail 1. So be sure that you get entered in the giveaway, because if you're not entered, you can't win. I have tried doing psychic entries, and I'm just not any good at it. I'm sure it's not a failure on my part. It's got to be a failure on my part. Not a failure on your part, rather. I'm sure it's a failure on my part. I'm just not getting the message, guys. So if you would help me out, if you want to win the print, just go and actually fill out the entry form. Okay? That would help me a good deal in getting you the print in case you're the person that is actually supposed to win. So be sure you're on the email list. Thank you, Cheryl. Yeah, I like that whole series of the I Am Weeds. Cheryl says that she loves the I Am Weeds Cool, for anybody that isn't following this in real time. Yeah, I like that one too. It's sort of captures sunset and fall and everything else all together at the same time. So what else? I talked about the entering the giveaway. Okay. Then I got to let you know tomorrow night, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, no, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Okay, so you can figure out what that is where you are. 5:30 p.m. I will be doing a live art show. Okay, I call it my Monday Happy Hour live virtual home art gallery show. Just because I had all those words sitting around on my desk that day, and I thought I'd throw them all in there. I've done a lot of these on Fridays. For some reason, the calendar I'm following suggested that we try this one on a Monday, so we're going to try it on a Monday. It takes place in my living room. Okay. That's my living room there. And if you missed the opening, I promise you, just before I went live, this dragon was definitely spewing smoke. Okay. It burns incense and it spews smoke, and it was perfect right up until the point where I went live, and then the smoke just died out. But anyway, that's my living room. That's where I will do, again, if you turn right around from where that is, that's exactly where I do my live virtual home art gallery shows. What those are is I will break out some of my limited editions that I have in stock that I was planning to take to art shows, this art fairs and shows this summer that did not happen because of our current situation. So I have them in stock. So I offer them at great discounts. They will be higher discounts even than you see on the clearance gallery. I do have a clearance gallery where you can get discounts on all of these things that I have in stock. But the ones that I'm offering on the art gallery shows are one of a kinds, okay? Because they are the #1 prints of the series, all right? Which makes them more valuable. If you know anything about limited editions, print #1 is the most valuable. And they'll be signed and numbered and a personal dedication on the back. And you'll get a big discount on those. I'll give you a discount code that will work on everything except the clearance items on the rest of the site. And if I have more than 2 people, they're still at the end of the show, and I haven't driven them away in a half an hour, like I seem to be driving people away in about 14 seconds today. But if there's 2 people or more at the end of the show, I will actually do a drawing, not for a limited edition. They cost too much to ship. But I will do a drawing for just one of my regular prints. I don't know which one. Okay. I'm thinking maybe Wall of Green. Okay. On metallic paper. Okay. So you get a chance to win this as long as you and a friend are actually watching in the last 5 minutes of the show. So if you want to skip the whole show, first off, I think that's going to leave a vacuum in your life. You will have missed something important. But in case you don't want to get there right at 5:30, if you get there at like 5:50, that's when I start looking to see if we have more than 2 people and we can do a drawing, do a giveaway. So thanks, Cheryl. So we'll try to do a giveaway then. A discount, definitely. Okay. Discounts are usually good for a couple of days. Okay. So those are very limited time discounts. Not quite a flash sale, but close. And very good prices, discounted prices on the limited edition prints that I am showing that day, which will be a surprise to both of us because the way that I do these is I go in and just start pulling things out of my stock just a few minutes before the show because otherwise I would have to actually prepare. And being prepared is not my strong point. You know, they kicked me out of Boy Scouts. I was not prepared. So we got that coming up on tomorrow night. Okay. And then, of course, because the month ends on Wednesday, that means Thursday night at 5:30, we're going to do a live drawing for the Divider Detail 1 September giveaway. Okay. So we'll do that drawing live. And so you can see that I'm not cheating. Okay. I try not to cheat, but you know, people don't believe me sometimes. I don't know why. Maybe it's the goatee. People don't trust the goatee. Is that it? Not too bad. Goatee stays. But be that as it may, we're going to do the drawing live, and then we'll notify the winner right after the show. Don't forget, if you're entered, to check your email on Friday, looking for the discount code. Okay. Because there's always a consolation discount code. Okay. Everybody will get a special 1 week discount code, good for everything on the site, again, except the clearances. So that's all the things I've got going on. We've showed you the pictures. We'll go over those again one more time before we close the show. But now it's time to get to our lesson. And our lesson today is on texture, clarity, and dehaze. Okay. Now, collectively, I call these texture because, to my eye, these things sort of change the overall or specific textures of your pictures. Okay. I liked this one. We're at Go Ask Aaron. Okay. They specialize in underwater photography. So it's a little interesting twist on the images we're going to see in our lesson today. Okay. So they show you the original and then applying texture, original applying clarity, original applying dehaze. And we'll find out what all of those mean as we go down through. Okay. Okay. So he talks about finding the perfect punch. Okay. I've also heard it called making your pictures crunchy. Okay. It's adding not overall contrast, it's adding very specific pieces of contrast that really makes your image feel more three-dimensional at the detail level. Okay, like it's got a texture to it. Okay. He shows you where they are. This is Lightroom Classic, calls them presents. or some version of Lightroom Classic did. You'll see on Lightroom Mobile on my iPad when I do the demonstration that it's in a different place, but these three controls are always together: texture, clarity, dehaze. Okay. I don't know why Lightroom can't put all of their tools in the same place on the different versions of the tool, but they move them around. I don't know. Well, I do know, but you're not supposed to do that. I know because I'm a photographer, or I'm a computer programmer, and computer programmers do what feels right to them, and very rarely do the quality people make us actually go back and follow the standards. So he talks then about adjusting frequencies, low frequencies, okay? And here the concept of frequency is the frequency of edges, okay? See how there are very low, there aren't any real solid edges in this area, whereas there are lots of very clear edges, okay, where we're going from one thing to another thing, okay? Up here, it's all just kind of water. Here, we're clearly going from one thing to another thing. Okay? He calls those high frequency. So he starts with the texture. You'll see when I do the demonstration, I go from the other direction, okay? He says, okay, what they do, okay? And it works primarily on the mid to high frequency areas of contrast, okay? So if we go back to our weeds, okay, texture would affect, okay, a lot of this stuff, little tiny areas down in here, where we're rapidly going from bright light to dark to light to dark to light to dark to light to dark. Okay, so there is actually some texture applied to that image. All right, so texture affects edges, but when they are smaller. Okay, and it can help improve the appearance of sharpness if you got slightly out of focus. Okay, all of these you want to use carefully. Okay, but notice how this top picture here is a little bit blurry. Okay, and by adding texture, it increases the contrast along each of these sharp lines. Okay, and the different colorations on the fish lips. Maybe we'll make that the watchword of the day. Fish lips. Today's watchword is fish lips. The watchword is fish lips. But anyway, by adding texture, okay, he gives the appearance that he did not miss that focus. All right. And I'll show you when we get to Lightroom. Here he did it obviously for a very small area. See how up in here the texture doesn't really look different, but in here it definitely looks different. Okay. There are different tools in Lightroom that you can apply different post-processing treatments to different parts of the picture. Okay. Clarity, okay, is really about the long edges. Okay. It's really about the borders of things. Okay. Texture doesn't change your saturation and it doesn't change your color. Okay. But if you get out of line with clarity, it does tend to make the lighter color desaturated. Okay. It will make things much darker in tone. That's the luminance. Okay. And when you get out of line, it can look really overdeveloped. Okay. So he shows an example here. I say he. Aaron is one of those names. Could be a he or a she. Okay. So they show here the original image. All right. And then they show he increased the exposure a little bit. Okay. Quite a bit. And that see how that increases the exposure on everything, and you lose all these blue dots. Okay. And they become very, very white. Okay. So he added clarity. Okay. The clarity, see how that brings back the borders, but not so much the blue. Okay. But notice how the whiteness here has become a little darker. The luminance has gone down. That's the way it got this dark part. Okay. And then he does use some dehaze, and dehaze will shift your colors. We'll see that clearly. Okay. And then he did add a little bit of texture. Again, all of these, again, those are much higher values than I would probably use. Okay. This looks particularly to me over in this area a little bit developed. Okay. Those dots look kind of painted on, but again, it's a training. So they may be trying to focus that. What dehaze does is it tries to compensate for atmospheric or ultraviolet haze. Just a broad, see how this is just hazy. Things are in focus, but it seems like there's something between us and the features. Okay. When you apply dehaze, it sort of takes out all of that general diffuse and really makes things sharper, look more textured. Okay. But notice how the color has changed. Okay. This is probably closer to the actual color of that rock. Okay. But it has gone from this very muted, sort of desaturated orange to this very, very bright orange. Okay. So it increased the saturation a lot. Okay. Same thing on the fish. Okay. Now, fortunately for us, there aren't a lot of other elements, but notice how over here, you don't really see anything about this water behind them at all. Okay. Okay. Now the water has come kind of blue. Okay. So it's changed the color of the water. In this case, probably for the better. Okay. I'm sure dehaze particularly for underwater, is the photographer's friend. Okay. I know shots that I take along seashore, along the ocean. Okay. There's often some sort of haze. Okay. So dehaze is my friend. I can take a somewhat plain sky and dehaze it, get some blue out of it. Okay. We'll see some of that. Okay. So, and then their final pro tip, okay, is to always check it fully zoomed in as well as zoomed out, okay, to accurately assess the effectiveness of texture clarity and dehaze. All right. So they're kind of subtle, and it's easier to show you what they do than to really describe it in words. Aaron did a very good job. But we've done two of the three things that we said we were going to do. We reminded you about the Live Art Gallery show tomorrow, 5:30 p.m. We reminded you about the live giveaway drawing on Thursday. Okay. 2 weeks from today, we'll be doing this show again. Okay, Sunday Morning Live with Ron. We'll have another lesson. I don't know what yet. Have you gotten the message that I don't do planning really well? But I'll be doing that 2 weeks from today. I'm going to get back on my schedule. I've been kind of lazy about that. The last time I would have done this, I was in Bandon and I couldn't get a good enough. No, I was actually driving that day, so I couldn't have done it anyway because I took off at like 4 o'clock in the morning, trying to get up there on the same day. You are absolutely right. I am killing time here because I need to turn on a feature here that doesn't stay turned on so that I can do the demonstration part. So we told you about those wonderful things coming up. The other thing we'll do on Thursday is we'll announce what the October giveaway is. What we haven't announced quite yet is to remind you that October is, in fact, my birthday month. So you need to plan ahead, okay? You've got a few days. My birthday is a month from today, October 27th. So if you wanted to get me something, you could buy a calendar, buy something from my store. That would be very good. That would be a great birthday present for me. And for you, because you get to have the art and I get to have the enjoyment of knowing somebody's enjoying my art. So we've got all those. We're going to go through the pictures again when I get through the lesson. We're probably close to losing. Where am I? What's my time? Yeah, we're going to lose Instagram here pretty soon. We usually lose Instagram about the time that we start the demo. But without further ado, let's go ahead and do the demo. All right. So what you're looking at here, and unfortunately you won't be able, I don't think you'll be able to, oh yeah, I can do my mouse here. Okay. What you're looking at here is the mobile version of Lightroom running on my iPad. Okay. I have pulled out some pictures from a shoot that I did in Santa Cruz last weekend. And because I thought you might like to see a different oceanfront than Bandon. And I've already done developing on them. I've done some cropping on them. And we're at the point in my process where I would start to work with dehaze, clarity, and texture. Okay, so we're right at that point. Now, when I say I did some developing on them, what I did was I hit the auto button. Okay, I haven't done my developing on them. I just hit the auto button. Okay, when these go in the gallery, they're going to look different. You should know that ahead of time. But you can always get a good idea when you're just scanning through photos. Okay, I'm about 1,100 photos behind. When you're scanning through photos, if you see something you kind of like the composition, but you're not sure about, what you got in the camera in terms of exposure and color and such, you can always go in and hit auto, and it will do some things to show you what it might look like if you went ahead and developed this picture. In the mobile version, yeah, I keep trying to do it with my mouse. In the mobile version of Lightroom, okay, dehaze, clarity, and texture are all under effects along with vignette. Okay, and we'll talk about vignetting, I think, when that may be our next lesson, is how to affect different areas of the photo. But, okay, as I said, when I do things, because it's the first slider I learned, I tend to start with dehaze. Okay, so I'm going to start with dehaze, and just to show you what dehaze does, I'm going to take it all the way up. Okay. Now, I would never publish a photo that looks like this. This looks way overdeveloped. But notice how it took all of that fuzziness out of the sky. It took any fuzziness between me and the lighthouse. Okay. Just so you know, this is the Santa Cruz Surf Museum, which also is a lighthouse. It's right on Point, where one of the most famous surf breaks is in Santa Cruz. If you're a surfer, I'm sure you know exactly where this is. Okay. So that's what it looks like with 100% dehaze. And that's what it looks like with minus 100% dehaze. But notice carefully how doing that shifts the color and the saturation. Okay. It creates this haze effect by removing saturation. Okay. So the photo looks very, very washed out if you go too far on negative dehaze. Okay. And it increases saturation. Okay. Our sky got very, very blue. Our grass got very, very green. Okay. Let me get my name out of the way. Okay. So the saturation goes way up. Okay. The luminance goes down. It's a darker version of blue. It's a darker version of green. So quite often, once you adjust dehaze, okay, you would go in and adjust the exposure to bring it back up. Okay, take that back. No, take that back to where it was. Okay. But let's take this, let's zero that back out. Okay. If I was working with dehaze on this, I would take it, and I know from working with it and the fact that I'm going to do some other adjustments, I don't want to go much beyond 20. Okay. Or it's, to me, it starts looking fake. Okay. On this one, 20 is probably even a little bit high. Okay. And remember, it said to look at it zoomed in. Okay. Okay. Zoomed out. That's the 1:2 view. This is the 1:1 view. We zoom in here. Oop. Now, zoom in here. Okay. That's the 1:1 view. Okay. So it doesn't look, you see my focus point was actually somewhere up here on the tower. But it doesn't look too bizarre. Okay, down here in the grass, doesn't look very bizarre. All right. Now, one of the things that happens with adding dehaze is because it changes saturation, you'll notice it also brought out some of the, hold on. If things move, it's because I'm trying to get rid of a hair. Okay. Notice how it brought out some of the spots on my lens. I have a very hard time keeping a lens clean when I'm shooting, and I forget to wipe it a lot. Fortunately, and we'll go into these at some point. Fortunately, there's a tool for that. You can see, even before I changed the dehaze, that there were a lot of other spots that I got, and now there's some more that I have to get. There's one up there. There's one there. Okay, so just know, don't worry about those. For the most part, you can take them out. All right, I missed a couple over there. All right, but anyway, if I was actually going to use this copy and this development, I would worry about that. So that's dehaze. All right. Then I go to clarity. Remember, clarity is going to work along the long edges. Okay. So it's going to work along here to increase the contrast. Okay? So watch what happens if I take it all the way up. Okay? How it made the sky lighter, the wall darker. Sky lighter, the roof darker. Okay. So remember in the lesson, they said, watch out because it can affect your saturation. Now, again, here, it's made all this look kind of fake. Okay. They kind of look like Lego bricks. They don't look like real bricks at this point. Okay. So I would never do clarity at that much. Okay. But, and these are really subtle. And again, I don't go much over 15 on clarity. It just a little bit. Okay. Maybe a little more there. Maybe right about there. And I can't point to something and tell you what changed. All right. Yeah, along here, probably. Okay. But I like to keep it subtle. I like to have a more natural looking photo. All right. Sometimes it can be a lot of work to make a natural looking photo. And then texture is the next control. Oh, I didn't show you, we're at 9 on clarity. I didn't show you what happens if you take all the clarity out. It makes all the edges fuzzy. Okay. So if that's an artistic look that you're looking for, okay, then that's something you can do. Okay? I definitely have seen photos like this hanging in gift shops in shorelines all over the country. Okay, go here and take him back to 9. Right there. Oh, no, not 16. I can't even pick my finger up straight. There. All right, so that's my clarity. All right. Texture. Again, you want to be really subtle with texture. Texture is going to deal with the fiddly bits. Okay. All these little contrasts between the individual bricks. Not so much the big long edge here as individual bits. Texture is really good for grass. Okay. Remember, I popped up one of my weeds series there. Okay. Texture is really good for grass because the edges tend to be very short. They have small areas of light versus dark. So if I take the texture all the way up, okay, and we zoom in, okay, look how that grass has gotten very, and this is why I like the term crunchy, okay, it's gotten very individualized blades of grass, okay, the parts of the tree. Okay? Now, those weren't in very much focus, okay, so it makes them look more in focus a little bit, okay, not so much zoomed in, but zoomed out, okay, that grass looks more in focus than it did when I didn't have the texture on there. What happens if I take the texture all the way down? Okay. Now, instead of having big halos around the edges, notice how everything just feels softer. Okay. We now have watercolor grass instead of individual blades of grass. So take that back to 0. I always like to be subtle. Again, I very rarely go beyond 10 or 15. I'm thinking right there, about 10, is a good compromise. Again, I couldn't point to something and say this came from texture, but I think the picture looks better having made that adjustment than before I made that adjustment. It's just really subtle. See, that's before adjusting. Let's a little more. Go back to, try to get back to 10. Well, we'll do it at 12. All right. So we'll create a version of this at 12. Okay. And let me go back to my edit tools, apply, to effects. Okay. So that's with the texture at 12. If we take it to 0 and go back to this tool, that's what it looks like with texture at 0. That's what it looks like with texture at 12. It's just really, really subtle. Okay? But it makes just that little bit of difference. There we go. Now we know that Instagram just dropped off. There's a time limit on Instagram that we don't have on Facebook. So bye-bye Instagram. We can remove them from the broadcast because they're really gone. Okay, so that's one picture. Okay. The reason I chose this one is this is a place where particularly clarity and texture help to bring out details here in the brick that we didn't have before. Again, if we go all the way back to the original, okay, that's what the original looked like. This is what it looks like now. Okay. So notice how the bricks really start to pop, the grass really starts to pop. Okay. So subtle things, but it gives it more feel. Okay. Good. Let's get out of that. We'll go to our next picture. Okay. Same general area. It was in the same park. This is a little rock that just sits offshore that the birds obviously love. Okay. If we zoom in, you can see we've got an interesting combination of pelicans, and I'm not sure what these guys are. If I had to guess, I would say maybe loons, just from the long neck. I will have to look them up when I actually go to write my description. We've already got some nice three-dimensional effects on here. Welcome to whoever else just joined us. Got some nice three-dimensional effects on here. Okay. It looks very textured. We can see the top of the algae poking out of the water and the texture of the rock and the barnacles and seaweed. Okay. The birds are pretty well in focus. Its background's kind of blah and it looks sort of hazy. So let's see what we can do using our three things. I want to make sure. Yes, there we go. Okay. Again, I just hit auto. I didn't like that, so I think I dropped their exposure down a little bit because I just didn't like it. It's my picture. I get to choose. There's an important pro tip. It's your picture. You get to choose, okay? If you think this picture looks best like that, then go for it. Your picture, okay? But again, we're going to start with dehaze. We've gone over time, as I often do. Just a little bit of dehaze. I don't want to get too much because you see how it's starting to shift the color saturation here in my pelicans. They're getting a little bit bluish, okay? But I did sharpen up this sort of bleh. blah area back here. Okay, and again, when I work, do the lesson on specific areas, we could use a paintbrush, okay, and then apply more dehaze just back here to sharpen that up. But we're not doing that now. Clarity, again, too much, too little, although that's an interesting effect. Okay. That makes it look more like a painting. Nothing wrong with paintings. Yeah, maybe you're right. Oops. I find it interesting that I am so consistent. All right. Because when I'm moving this slider, and usually I'm doing it on my big screen with a mouse, so I have a little bit more fine muscle control than my thumb on my iPad. But when I'm moving the slider, I'm looking at the picture. Okay. If I bring this zoomed in, okay. Start moving the slider. I can see more of the picture zoomed in. Okay. But you see, if you get too high up there, they start to look painted. Okay. I like my pictures to look like pictures, but I'm always amazed because I'm looking at the picture. I'm not looking at the value on the slider. And when I get done, very, very many times, I am right in that 9 to 13 range. Okay. That's just a look that I like. And then texture, same thing. Work on the zoomed in. Maybe about there. Yeah, you can try a little bit higher. See, because I've learned that, see if I'm actually changing. There we are. Now we're changing it. I know to try it in that range first and see if I like it. I like that. Okay. See how that's brought even more clarity here. We've got individual feathers sort of starting to pop out on the pelicans. Okay. Let's go back to normal zoom. The overall picture looks really good, not overdeveloped. Okay. So let's do some comparisons. This was the original. Okay. This was what it looked like before we started playing just now. Okay. And this is what it looks like now. Very subtle, but it's a better picture, in my opinion. Again, when I say better, okay, and most photography instructors won't add this caveat. Okay, when I say better, I mean it looks better to me. Okay. There are some quote unquote rules, but remember always it's your picture. Okay? Nobody can tell you what's right or wrong about your picture. They can tell you what they would like or do differently, but they can't tell you right or wrong. Okay. So here we are in the current version on that. I think that's a pretty sharp picture. I would work on this this rough water behind them. It's really interesting because I have a false horizon line here. Okay, this is all just the same ocean, but the way that the wind came off the point. Okay, you've got texture behind the rock and smooth in front of it. I like that. I really like that. Okay. Another one from a little later the same day. This one's at the Municipal Pier there in Santa Cruz. And as with many piers in Northern California, the Sea Lions think that the pilings and trusses and supports of the piers make really good places to get up out of the ocean and dry off and sun themselves and warm up. Okay, so that's what they do in great number of hordes. Again, this one, I really did some changes on this. See, I hit the auto, and that to me is just too bright. But we'll go with the auto, okay? Because some of what we're going to do here is going to change that. All right. So let's. This is going to be start, so we can get back to it. Okay. Enough of that. Go back to here. Here in our effects. So obviously, I picked this one because this one really obviously has haze. Okay, it just seems like there's a white film between us and everything in this picture. All right. So, hey Darcy, welcome. So we're going to take the dehaze and very carefully dehaze right about to there. Now remember, if we go too far, it's going to look funky. Okay. Personally, almost every picture that I use dehaze on, I will be less than 35. Okay. Again, just looking at the slider, the point where it starts to look over processed to me seems to turn out to be 35. That's just my number. Okay. You've got to come up with your own number. Okay. Now, clarity, which is going to help us with the big edges, along here, on here, on here, okay? We'll bring that up a little bit. You know, as I tend to always go up and not down, because the effect that I'm looking for is a very photographic effect. So I want my edges to be crisp, okay, to be crunchy, as I heard one YouTuber call it, okay? And there again, just moving the slider, looking at the picture, I ended up at 10. And then we take texture. All right. Just about there. Okay. And I ended up at 17 this time. And some of that is because I'm trying to make it look like I got a better focus on this fur than I actually got. Okay. And that's working for me. Okay. See on his back, we start to see some of his stretch marks. He needs to start feeding up for winter. Okay. Okay. Same here. Little extra clarity and crispiness on the whiskers. Okay. So if we go back to what it looked like before we started there, okay, to what we've got now, definitely an improvement. Definitely an improvement. All right. Let's zoom back out. Okay. Go through the same exercise where we started, where we ended up. Definite improvement. I'm still not sure I like this picture, but it was mainly for demonstrations to show you, because it's got all of these different textures to bring out in here, the fineness of the coats on the sea lions, the not so fine barnacles, the long lines of the poles against the water. So, wow. I got to tell you, I like being a photographer. I like playing in post-processing. I like moving the little sliders. So it's very hard for me to stay focused and just do what we're doing for the class when I'm doing these demonstrations. But somehow I managed to do it. Okay. We are already almost 15 minutes over, but really quick, I did want to show you one more time. Here are my images. River sunset. Wet parking lot. I dare you to take my rock. Where the river meets the sea. High Ducky. Don't get your toes wet. Barbara Kay. I Saw the Lighthouse. Summer Remembrance. And then the series, I Am Weeds Warm. I Am Weeds Black and White. I Am Weeds on Shrooms. And I Am Weeds Cool. So those are all available right now in the gallery at my website. They're in the new images gallery at my website. There's the website, ronalcottphotography.com. Okay, that's where you go to enter the drawing if you're not already on my email list. You can go there. Remember, tomorrow night, 5:30, is our Monday happy hour virtual live home art gallery show. And then Thursday is our live giveaway for Divider Detail 1, where we give away the September. And then we also announce what our October image is for our giveaway. That also 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. And then 2 weeks from today, which will be October something, October 11th. All right. So October 11th, we'll be back with Sunday Morning Live. And then the one really important thing on the calendar is a month from today is my birthday. I know that makes a huge difference in your life. You weren't informed. You missed it last year. You can be forgiven. You just didn't know. But now you know. So do act accordingly. It's a shameless plug. Buy something from my website, please. Shameless plug. Shameless plug, please. 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 Sorry. In the meantime, we're way over time. I'm going to have to edit the heck out of this in order to try to get it up on IGTV. Meantime, you be good to yourself. Be kind to other people and become the person that you would like to meet. Peace out.